The universe is going to meet you with who you believe that you are. You can't fake it. You cannot fool the universe.
And as I've been navigating this world of technology, as I've also seen this world, I've always had a very optimistic view of the impact technology could have not only in my life, but in the world that we see today and in the future of my children.
We're seeing that life is endless and infinite, which means that it's endlessly creative. And if we're part of this universe, then that means that we are endowed with that same infinite and endless creative ability as human beings.
I truly do believe we're also in this world of constant opportunities, but it's also about how you decide to look at it.
It's one thing to realize that we're in a universe of infinite possibility, but it's another thing to believe that those infinite possibilities are available to you. We have to gain back control and power over how we see the world and how we want it to go. And that stems at the very core from love.
Welcome back to the Future Human Experience podcast. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, and I am so excited for our guest today, Howard Falco, an author and a speaker, and I would say a movement leader for this awesome work that you've been leading. Howard, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
So Howard, I'm so excited because you just launched a new book just a few weeks ago, Invincible. Tell us a little bit more, and of course, I will tell my story about how we ended up connecting, but tell us a little bit more about what this book is about and why you care so much about the important messages that you want all of us to receive with this work.
Sure. I mean, the book is really about taking control of the mind and empowering yourself for the best life possible, and understanding how your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions determine so much of what unfolds for you. And after doing work for 20, 25 years with so many people, whether it's in life going through anxiety, depression, relationship issues, or in sports with champions at the highest level, I've learned and taught what works, and I've seen it work. So I wanted to give out the formula.
And Howard, I've been part of this journey with you for the last few weeks since this book launched. It's been a wonderful addition for myself and for my family. We've been having conversations at home, not only with my wife, but with my kids as well about this mindset. But also what I found fascinating about your work is that here in this podcast and in this work that I've been doing with the Future Human Experience, we've been talking about as the future gets more digitized, it gives us the opportunity to be more human. And that's a very optimistic, aspirational viewpoint. But one of the things I've learned in your work is you've been helping us with Invincible to understand what does that human piece look like? And that requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of self-work. Tell us a little bit more about either one are some of those self-works that you recommend here for us to start doing, but two, also highlight some of the challenges that today in this world of AI and digitalization, why it's also hard sometimes to do some of the self-work.
Well, definitely technology feels like it's separating us more, right? We're behind a computer screen or a smartphone. And so the connection of the human experience one-on-one, there's more of a premium on that. So this work really helps you be more present when you have that connection so you can be more powerful. And the work that can sometimes seem hard is the work of self-reflection, is the work of finding out who you have been and how you've presented yourself so you can see what you don't want to experience anymore and how to shift that so you can harness the power of life and your own mind and your own energy to shape things and move that needle of probability more towards what you want to experience.
And the human experience it is a very personal experience. So me telling someone else, hey, the human experience like this, or the human experience for you should feel like this. That's not what you're saying here. What you're recommending is our human experience is unique to us. It's powerful. It's also empowering as well. Right. Tell us a little bit more about why was it important for you to help others build that not only self-reflection, but that self-empowerment as well.
Well, there's a lot of suffering in the world, and the mental health crisis is at epic levels. And the communities are overwhelmed. The psychiatrists are overwhelmed. The therapists are overwhelmed. We need a new understanding and evolution of mind and consciousness, and that's what this work is. It reveals to us that the path to transcending this, the next movement, I believe, in the human condition is through self-awareness, self-realization, self-understanding. So we see how powerful we are. We see how much we can learn to love and respect and honor who we are. And the more we do that, the more power we have over the manifestation and creation of what we want this world to look like. But we have to conquer the so-called dark side of the human mind, or what the outside world has been putting on us and causing us to be affected by. We have to gain back control and power over how we see the world and how we want it to go. And that stems at the very core from love. And that love stems from an understanding of ourselves that's greater than the one we had before.
So Howard, with that said, we also live in this world that is in constant change, constant disruption. It seems like every other week we have a new headline either of a new technology or a new change in policy or a new company having a new strategy. And if I'm in the middle of all this change, sometimes that could feel very uncomfortable. And one of the things I love that you share in your book is that you highlight this work about not sitting in these moments, right? Looking at these moments as it is working for you instead of against you. Share with us a little bit more about, one, why is that mindset more important today than ever? But two, why is it, like, how do we intersect that work? For example, tomorrow we might hear about 1,000 layoffs in a certain place, or a new strategy that's going to impact a certain amount of workers, or a new company going through this new change. How does your work intersect some of that so we can make sure that we are changing that mindset on saying, hey, this is a good learning opportunity for me to grow instead of that is something that's impacting me?
So it goes back to the saying, what's the one constant in the universe? Change, right? And for a top athlete in the world, what makes a great athlete at the top level great is their ability to adapt and react to change. They're ready for any possibility. They're not only thinking one thing can happen, they're ready for any possibility, and that makes them quick and intuitive and fast. And so when it comes to the human condition, when it comes to regular everyday life, the more you can be open and ready for anything, the less you're going to be thrown off balance. And the more you will respect the universe and its infinite possibilities. Now, that doesn't mean you want something bad to happen, but when it does happen, instead of it throwing you off balance where it sends you into a tailspin for weeks maybe, you're like, okay, this is part of life. I believe in my resiliency. I believe that when one door closes, another door can open, and I'm gonna stay in that optimism, see what this is bringing me, what it's for me, and how, and then adapt and change, because I have that kind of faith in myself, and I have that kind of faith in the life that birthed me into existence.
And with that said, though, Howard, too, one of the things that you introduced at the very early part of your book, and it's part of just how you've introduced yourself to the world, is that you see the world of infinite possibilities. And as I've been navigating this world of technology, that is, I've also seen this world. I've always had a very optimistic view of the impact technology could have, not only in my life, but in the world that we see today and in the future of my children. Tell us a little bit more about what was that story of you as a 14-year-old that created that moment of like, wow, I see infinite possibilities in the world?
Well, the story was I was taken on a camping trip. It was the first time I was away from, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and it was the first time I was away from the city lights. We were less than 100 miles from the Canadian border. We got there at night, and I went out to kind of explore, went down to the end of this dock on a lake, and looked at this beautiful lake that was still as could be, and I started seeing what looked like lights were shining up from one part of the lake, and as I looked, I thought, that's weird. And then I looked and they were shining up from another part. And before I knew it, these lights were covering the entire lake. And at first, I didn't know what it was. And then I slowly lifted my eyes and my chin to the sky. And in that moment, everything changed for me, because I could not believe, I was literally starstruck, the amount of stars I was seeing in the night sky. It blew my mind. And in that moment, I thought to myself, my God, how do we not understand more of this? That this canopy that's above our head, this amount of vastness and infinite nature of life. And that sort of set me on a path of asking a lot of questions. It was later that I realized that, with the images that came back from the Hubble or the James T. Webb, like, we're seeing that life is endless and infinite, which means that it's endlessly creative. And if we're part of this universe, then that means that we are endowed with that same infinite and endless creative ability as human beings. And so I thought, why aren't we using that more for the greater good? And what is it that is the governor on the use of that infinite possibility? Or what is it that takes us to destruction versus creation? And that's why I wrote this book.
Oh my God. When you were telling that story, I remember reflecting back on my personal journey as well. I've shared this in a few episodes, but I'll share it with you today. When I was born and raised in Houston, and at the age of 11, my family moved to Ecuador. And my parents are Ecuadorian, And so I was a first generation American, and I struggled a little bit kind of fitting in. And then when we moved to Ecuador, I also struggled fitting in because I'm like this American student now in Ecuador. And at the age of 13, I believe it was 12 or 13, I was in the 7th grade. And my school ended up opening up its very first computer lab. And we're the very first class to walk into that computer lab. But also this computer lab also had the internet. And it also had that starstruck moment, right? When I saw this and it connected me with the rest of the world, I also had the sense of infinite possibilities, right? I did not see at that time, I wasn't anticipating, the ads and also the stuff that we could see right now on the internet.
Just the connection.
The connection, right? That human connection. I was like, wow, this is what can unlock humanity. And when I had a chance to not only navigate not only your perspective, but I started to understand that even the work I get to do today, that anchor that of that little kid in 7th grade has continued to be that anchor to the work I get to do today. And I feel like the work that you're doing today as well anchors back to that 14-year-old camping trip, right, that you had. And I think all of us have these aha moments. It just happens in different parts of life. And for some might be the camping trips, for some might be a computer lab, and for others might be, the book, navigating into this book, because you also in this book challenging so first off, just let me clarify to the whole audience, this book is not a weekend read. This book is a lot of work also as well that you challenge us to answer certain questions in a very honest way. Tell us a little bit more about why you encourage us also in the writing of this book to create those moments of self-reflection, to create those challenging moments for us. Yeah.
It goes back to what you said. You discovered the infinite possibilities when you walked into that computer lab. I discovered it when I looked up at the stars. It's one thing to realize that we're in a universe of infinite possibility, but it's another thing to believe that those infinite possibilities are available to you to experience. And so why I wrote the book the way it is, and asked people to ask self-reflection questions, because I want them to dig in to where the lies are that limit them from more in their life. Because everybody has dreams and desires of what they want to create, even if it's just a more peaceful walk in life every day, or a more intimate and close relationship with their significant other, or more success in business. And if they haven't experienced it yet, there may be some limitation in their belief system that is preventing them from the creation of that. So the book is designed to help you reveal where those lies and that limitation may be. I call them lies because I believe that any limitation on the expansion of possibility is a lie, because of the truth, the ultimate grounding truth of a life of infinite possibility, a universe of infinite possibility. So that's what I challenge the reader to do, is keep questioning those lies so you can dissolve them and liberate yourself, liberate your mind, liberate your heart, liberate your soul.
Howard, with that said too, one of the things that you highlight as well, and you challenge us to, and you even educate us, is the conversation about the ego, right? One of the things, I will be very transparent, my personal relationship, or how I've always talked about ego, either from a personal level or within our communities or within our families, is I've always looked at it from a very negative perspective. Yeah. I'm like, wait, don't let your ego get in your way, or don't let this, hey, watch this. But you challenge us to think a little bit differently. Tell us a little bit more about why that is.
Yeah, I think the ego's been taught for many, many years that it's sort of a negative thing. And I don't look at it that way. I look at it like the bridge. It's trying to create, defend, and protect what we believe is true about ourselves. So it's like the bridge between our beliefs and reality. And so the way that I approach the ego is a way, instead of trying to confine it or destroy it or restrict it, that you should observe it. Understand it. Say, why am I saying those things? Why am I feeling this emotion or this rage or this negativity? Or why did I make that decision? Find out why your ego is doing that so you can find the sponsoring belief so you can finally change it. But if you're denying your ego or you're suppressing it, you're not learning from it. And you have to learn from it in order to change it.
And one of the things too that resonated with me in this work, and even not only talking about the self-reflection, self-awareness, the ego, the lifelong learning opportunities too that you highlight that we should all be having, is also how important this book is relevant today to leaders and to executives in this constantly changing business landscape. Yeah. One of the things that resonated with me a lot is sometimes as leaders or in corporations, we're making multi-million-dollar, multi-thousand-dollar decisions that are not only impacting our customers, impacting our employees, impacting sometimes even the countries and the communities that we serve. So there's a lot of pressure on us, right? Tell us a little bit more about why you believe, not only why this book is relevant to business leaders today, but why it's important today, probably more than ever, because of this environment that we're in, for us to have these moments of building that self-awareness for us to navigate this constant change.
Well, like sports, where it's hyper competitive now, kids are starting at 2, 3, 4 years old in single sports, the edge is becoming mental. That's what's separating the best from the rest in sports now, because the physical is so close. Business is very competitive nowadays. So what is it where they find that edge that shifts them to be more competitive or better than another company? And I believe it's in the tone and the energy that is exhibited from the top down, from the C-suite all the way down through the employees. And if they miss that mark in terms of the right energy going downstream to their employees, then I believe the whole company is going to suffer. And so to educate sort of the C-suite executives on how to have this sense of mindfulness, this next level mindfulness, this sense of mindset in the possibilities, and live in this optimism and this high level state of mind and vibe, it can transcend through the whole company and lift the whole boat.
Absolutely, and the best organizations I've been able to be a part of have been with that perspective, right? Have been with those executives, those leaders, and those teams that have that.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you don't have to make tough decisions at
Absolutely.
times, but there's a tone and an energy and an understanding and a compassion and an ability to do that in a way that keeps the whole energy of the company in a space that's most conducive to success. Like I said, that pins that needle of probability on whether the company hits its goals and is successful closer to 99.9%.
Howard, the other thing too that resonated with me a lot was even your perspective on challenging us on how we talk about mistakes and how we talk about learning opportunities. As someone that's always been very passionate about lifelong learning, I've also been the first one to raise my hand when someone asks, hey, do you have a mistake? And I'm like, oh, I made a mistake here. Like we even vocalize that out there to the world. Share with us a little bit more about why that little perspective change is not only meaningful in the work that we get to do, but also it really does create that long-term impact of that self-awareness in the world that we want to see.
Right, exactly. Well, I think we've been so conditioned to be so hard on ourselves, right? And mistakes allow us to live in a place of regret, live in a place of shame, and live in a place of guilt. And that's the opposite of creation. Like, you cannot create from a place of feeling low and unworthy. The universe is going to meet you with who you believe that you are. You can't fake it. You cannot fool the universe. The more you see yourself in a higher state of mind with more compassion, more respect, and more love, the more the field of possibilities opens for you in the energy that goes out of you. But even more importantly, the more that field of possibilities opens for the universe to pour into you with the right connections, people, places, and events. So getting back to the heart of the question, when you can see that really any of our so-called mistakes in life have truly been a process of learning, because we each have been doing the very best we can at each moment of our life. There is no other truth. Coulda, woulda, and shoulda are lies. If we could've, would've, or should've, we would've. It's as simple as that. It's the most one of the most astonishing things that shifted my mindset. And it doesn't mean we condone our past behavior. It doesn't mean we want to live in it again. And it doesn't mean we want it, for tomorrow. All that means is that we understand that it's who we were, not who we are or have the power to be. And that can be so liberating for the soul, because finally we've unhooked the trailer of guilt, shame, and regret in our life, which has kept us feeling so low and so down, and realized I am worthy, I am capable, and I'm going to live in that space from this moment forward.
So Howard, with that said, as we're navigating this world, I think one of the things you challenge us with is to look at this infinite possibilities. And I truly believe in this world of constant change, of AI and unlocking these areas. I truly believe now we are in this era we were in this era of infinite possibilities. I think today the infinite possibilities are so apparent. They're like right in front of us, because you're either going to see a new job opportunity tomorrow because this new role is opening up, or you're going to see a new opportunity for your child or for your family, or new business is opening up in your community, because we're in this world of constant change, I truly do believe we're also in this world of constant opportunities. But it's also about how you decide to look at it, right? And how do you decide to form it for the future. With that said too, Howard, one of the things I know you're working on too is you're trying to also develop this mindset in the younger generation too with a foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that work that you're leading?
Yeah, I started a foundation called the 8 Wisdom Foundation. That's the number 8, which really is not a number. It's really representing the figure of infinity, the Infinite Wisdom Foundation. And the idea is for the legacy of this work to put it into curriculum for high school students before they graduate, whether they go to college or don't go to college, where they understand themselves more, a process and a manual for self-understanding, so they can understand how critical the way that they think and feel about themselves has an impact on what they experience in their life. Something that maybe they weren't really taught because, parents do the best jobs they can, community does the best job it can, religion does the best job it can in helping people understand this, but a more direct approach of bringing this wisdom and this education to young people so they can be more conscious as a generation about how they feel about themselves, which dictates everything.
And with that said too, one of the things that we also are navigating in this world, especially if we have children, is negativity, right? How are we helping and coaching not only our the next generation, but even as adults, we struggle sometimes navigating with negativity. Can you share with us a little bit more about some of your encouragement or some of your insights on how best to navigate this in this infinite possibility world?
Yeah, well, just because infinite possibilities exist doesn't mean you're open to receive it or you feel worthy of receiving it. And that could be because of the negativity you feel about yourself. So the process of self-realization helps you get to a place where you see the truth about yourself, that you are absolutely worthy of anything you want to set your mind to, work hard to build the conditions to create. But the outside world also is there, putting forth its challenges and its traps, whether it's family members, friends, society, media, entertainment is constantly filling our head with potentially negative and fearful images. And not that we shouldn't be aware of what's going on in the world, but to get pounded by this negativity is not healthy. People are always trying to eat better, they're working out, they're doing all this exercise, but what are you feeding the most important element of your life with? Your mind. And so the book has a step in there on how to be ready for that negativity in life and how to master it, how to overcome it, how to not let it affect you, how to stay on your balance beam, as I say, so you don't get pulled off into the, I don't know if you remember the game when you were a kid called Hot Lava, where you took the couch cushions, you put them, and you couldn't step on the car, but you had to go cushion to cushion. Well, that's what life is like. You're trying to stay on your path so that you're not pulled into the negativity. And as you go to more positivity, the world's going to challenge you, and it may try and pull you back. But the idea is to be ready for it, like a great athlete who's ready for anything. The invincible mindset is ready for any negativity and is going to stay in its lane. Not that it's not open and aware of what's going on and that there's things that have to be dealt with. So I don't want people to feel like they're an ostrich with their head in the sand. Right. But they're aware of it and they just choose to maintain an optimistic, positive, relentless attitude towards goodness, hope, and joy. And then there's things we can't avoid in life, right? Like grief and sorrow. We have to deal with those things. But we don't have to be pulled into the negativity that the world wants us to be in all the time.
And Howard, as we wrap up, one of the things that also resonated with me, not only as a parent, but as a youth sports coach as well, you share with us that some of the only things we have in our control when we get to navigate in this world is our preparedness, our focus when we're going to do the work and the impact that we're trying to do, or the sport that we're trying to play or perform, and our belief in ourselves. And the belief in ourselves is something too that resonated with me a lot, right? As someone that is, started this work a few years ago, even started this podcast in the spirit of love and creating a platform, believing in that this work is important, believing in myself that I could be this vessel doing this work has also been a challenge for me, right? And your book has given me that encouragement to navigate some of those belief systems, some of those limiting beliefs as well, and those lies like you highlight as well. But tell us a little bit more about why do you feel that even believing in ourselves sometimes have been challenging, even though we get these stages, or do you struggle with that too? Today, this is your 3rd book. Do you sometimes, challenge yourself, like, oh man, do I believe that this is...
Because it's based on the comfort zone, right? We know we can survive in a certain comfort zone of who we've been. But when we start to stretch and we start to expand, it's unknown space. We don't know. And sometimes if we let our ego run rampant, it can fill that unknown with fear. Oh, this is going to happen. Oh, this is going to happen. And that's where we have to overcome that and say, no, this is who I am. I'm expanding into who I believe I am and who I believe I can be. And again, I go back to an athlete example. The great athletes, they lived in that space. They wanted that open space of expansion, of new possibilities, of what they could accomplish. They didn't want to just stay where they were at. They always wanted to expand on who they are as an athlete, to be to greater and greater heights. And so I think when we're trying to do something new, our ego as our guardian and protector comes in and says, hey, we don't know that space. What are you doing? And I think by redefining yourself and saying, you know what, not only do I deserve it, but I believe I'm going to be okay no matter what, and this is where I want to be, that can help us expand the circumference of the possibility field.
That's wonderful, Howard. As we wrap up here, I just want to share with the audience how we had a chance to meet. Again, in that spirit of just putting yourself out there saying, hey, this is possible. My son is playing soccer now, and the field that he has practice on got vandalized. The lights got vandalized, so he couldn't have the practice that night at his park. So they had to move parks. Well, where he moves parks, he moves basically 2 minutes away from where your book launch was about to happen in 24 hours. And it so happens that I decided to walk in that day to that bookstore just because I'm always interested in getting new books and again, the lifelong learner in me. And I saw you were about to have your book launch that next night. That's the reason why I went to go see your book launch that next night. That's the way I've been part of this Howard Falco universe for the last 2 weeks, which has been wonderful. But you're right, like when you put yourself out there and you say something, hey, you know what, I deserve this, the world, the universe.
It nudges you towards what that new possibility that you open to. The universe helps create the conditions to accelerate you getting to that point. It's really beautiful how life is walking with us each day to help us with what we're trying to create.
And you're also very transparent in your book too, that it's also how we perceive the universe too. It could be God and in cases of the universe, and however we want to formalize that in our spirituality, right?
Yes. However you want to personalize that for your journey, that connection. But in whatever way you want to do it, nonetheless, it's there. It's there to help nurture and guide you and be part of this infinitely creative expression that we're all in.
Well, Howard, I know we could talk for hours about this work. And again, we're in the same town, so I'm absolutely certain we'll jam again. With that said, Howard, one of the things that we like to have a lot of fun with our guests is we ask our guests to come with a surprise question. What question do you have for me and my journey or my story that I've had to date?
I want to know what lights up your soul. What gets you most excited about life itself and your participation in it?
Well, thank you so much for that question, Howard. What gets me excited has been that I feel like I'm being part of building a world for my little ones. That has been something that I actually thought of before I had kids, before I met my wife. Maybe it's the relationship I have with my parents that they opened up an entire new world for me with the work that I got to do with them in Ecuador, et cetera. They saw, or at least they encouraged me to see the possibilities, but more importantly, I think they encouraged me to see the very unique privileges and gifts that I had and that we all have. And so when I get to do this work, I get to, now have a chance to meet someone like you. Not only that gets me even more optimistic about the future, it gets me more optimistic about the future that my children are going to be inheriting one day.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, I'm certainly grateful for you and all the great work that you're doing and will continue to do. So thank you.
Howard, thank you so much for being part of the Future Human Experience. Where can people find you, find your book, connect with you, and follow up on this conversation?
Absolutely. The book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any independent bookstore. And if it isn't there, make sure you tell the manager that it needs to be there. And then my websites are howardfalco.com, totalmindsports.com, and 8wisdom, the number 8wisdom.org. And then also you can find me on Instagram.
Wonderful. Well, Howard Falco, thank you so much for being part of the Future Human Experience. We'll have the links to all that in the show notes, and we're looking forward to this conversation to continue in building an invincible mindset in all of our lives. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. This is Eric, the host of the Future Human Experience. The reason why this podcast was created was to be a platform for others to really bring these conversations to life. So if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. It will really help our channel and expose these ideas for others. Thank you.